The Ever Given is a 200,000-ton wall of steel, wedged completely sideways across one of the most vital waterways on the planet. At 400 meters long, it is roughly the height of the Empire State Building. Once its bow drove into the eastern bank and the stern swung into the west, it became physically locked into the canal's geometry. Authorities scrambled to dislodge it, but the size disparity was staggering. These tugboats are pushing against a ship carrying nearly $1 billion in cargo. Within days, a massive maritime traffic jam formed. Over 430 vessels dropped anchor in the Red and Mediterranean seas, unable to move toward their destinations. This chart shows the canal's share of world commerce. Roughly 12% of all global trade is forced through this specific channel. If we isolate manufactured goods, this single route processes 30% of total global container traffic. Every hour the Ever Given sat stranded, an estimated $400 million in goods stalled. Cascading disruptions followed for months. Freight rates spiked 400% worldwide. Car factories paused production, waiting for delayed semiconductors, and store shelves lacked consumer goods that were sitting in the backlog. Modern supply chains rely on tight, just-in-time delivery schedules. The Ever Given exposed how those systems depend on a single point of failure. Connecting the Mediterranean and Red Seas had been a goal for centuries. The modern canal began with a French-led effort in the 1850s, spearheaded by Ferdinand de Lesseps. Beginning in 1859, a massive workforce of Egyptian laborers spent a decade manually carving a 193-kilometer channel through the desert, relying on massive forced labor to complete the project. The canal officially opened in 1869, with a lavish inauguration ceremony attended by global elites, including Empress Eugenie of France. By cutting 9,000 kilometers off the journey between Asia and Europe, the project removed Africa as a mandatory transit point for global trade. Over the next 150 years, the shipping industry built an entire infrastructure around this specific corridor. Bunkering terminals at Port Said became global refueling hubs, and maritime insurance frameworks and rigid logistics schedules were tailored to these specific waters. This accumulated ecosystem makes bypassing Egypt financially devastating. The route is reinforced by a century and a half of commercial trust and physical investment that cannot be easily replicated elsewhere. To lower costs per container, shipping lines are locked in a relentless drive for scale. Larger vessels yield higher profit margins per voyage. Container ship capacity has quadrupled in just 25 years. Modern Triple-E-class behemoths can now carry over 24,000 individual 20-foot containers at a time. These vessels now tower over the surrounding infrastructure, turning routine transits into high-wire maneuvers. In 2014, the Suez Canal Authority launched an $8.2 billion expansion project, digging a 35-kilometer parallel channel to accommodate these larger ships. However, the expansion was not universal. Critical southern sections remain a single lane, creating a bottleneck where two-way traffic is physically impossible. Shipping lines continue to build wider and heavier vessels to maximize profit, yet these megaships now match the literal width of the canal's narrowest banks. As ship size reaches the absolute physical boundaries of the channel, the margin for error has effectively vanished. We can measure the hidden macroeconomic shockwaves of the 2021 blockage through geographical simulation modeling. This chart shows the global economic impact. While different regions saw varying results, researchers estimated an annual net global loss of $79.6 billion. China and the European Union sustained massive financial damage as their trade networks depend deeply on this sea lane. However, the data shows the United States and Japan experienced unexpected economic windfalls, acting as insulated hubs. The Suez Canal acts as an economic fulcrum. It dictates trade advantages based purely on a country's geographic reliance on the route. If the canal is this vulnerable, why can't the modern world simply route around it? The most immediate alternative is the Cape of Good Hope, which requires sailing around the entire African continent. This detour adds 10 to 14 days to the journey. That delay translates into massive fuel expenses, higher crew costs, and increased emissions that most shipping companies cannot absorb. Proposed land-based routes, like Iraq's Development Road, are often announced with great fanfare, but face massive structural and volume limitations. Land corridors project moving roughly 100 million tons annually. That is a tiny fraction of the 2 billion tons of cargo the Suez Canal handles every year. Proposed northern routes face the harsh realities of the frozen Arctic, a path that is slow, expensive, and currently lacks the infrastructure to challenge the South. Neither advanced engineering nor political ambition can easily replace a 150-year-old dependency. Until a genuine substitute exists, the global economy remains perpetually exposed to the next choke point crisis.